Hold on. Do you guys hear me? Oh shit, the music. I haven't done this since a minute. Okay. Yes, you could hear me. You're lying. So, one sec. Okay. So I've not really been taking any trades since the competition because that was pretty fucking intense and I got pretty fucking burned out. But we are going to do, I think we're going to make my last day like a summary video and try to condense into 20 minutes, which would be pretty cool because I think that was probably one of my best, if not my best performance trading ever. So I would really love if that could be like a little video. So I think that's pretty cool. So we're still, Bybit after every competition also audits the P&L to make sure everybody did everything copacetic. So it's taking a while still if like anybody's waiting for prizes and NFTs and shit. So we will see where that ends up. I mean, there is a possibility people get disqualified because somebody had a bug they found, but they didn't place in top 10, but somebody else could have potentially abused that bug as well. So they're going through everything. Apparently this happens every competition. I didn't know this, but like apparently every single competition there's some sort of like review that has to happen that takes like a couple weeks. So they're in the middle of that review. I do want to point one thing out and just get your guys' opinion on this, okay? I'm only going to show this once. I don't want to make it a big deal. So this is a clip from the competition. Okay, so just quickly for me, look at the high scores. Just watch only the high scores in the upper right. I just have to point this out. Okay, you watching? High scores, upper right. I'm only gonna do this once. Did you see that? Do it one more time, actually. High scores, upper right. Okay. Just saying. I know some of you guys know your math out there pretty well, but that's 25x ZIL. I don't know. I remember seeing that happen, but let's just get into market review. I have not even looked at the market in, oh boy. I haven't looked since like the last day of the competition, whenever that was. So let me get out my notes because I forgot my whole strategy right now. I've come up with a strategy that I like to look at markets now on a daily basis, but I haven't been doing it at all. And I'll screenshot it. I'm also thinking about replacing the Fire tablets with a 43-inch TV. I don't know, that's just kind of tired of managing all these little tablets. I'm just use like Vivaldi with like split screens to have my tablet experience. But this is my daily ritual I've been using. It's been working pretty well. I notice things usually every time I do this. So let's just get into it. Okay, so first start looking at the weekly. So the weekly is about to close. And going to close in 8 hours. So usually, I mean not usually, if you look at these big green candles, right? Here, like here, 2 big green candles. They usually end up with a third continuation candle at least. And we're at 2, and then we have like a doji at the top. So I'm wondering if like basically there might be a save the weekly moment. I'm not really sure. It's been hella bullish for 2 weeks. A tarot card reading from the beach. Can you determine what Bitcoin's going to do? Anyway, let's kind of keep in mind that possibly what if there was a save the weekly type moment. That would be pretty interesting. I mean, we know for a fact that most of the people and big whales and firms and shit have more money than they can buy Bitcoin. They're generally like VWAPing and TWAPing it for like a month or so. So like if they want to move price, like they've historically shown that they can move price, and a good example of it was the February end of month, where February, the last day of February opened here and like closed here or something. March 2015 weekly? I don't even know if my chart goes that far back. Hold on. I don't really look that far back, and I don't know if that's a hindrance or not. I tend to like believe that a market is made up of participants, and the participants in the market change over the years. So like fractals can maybe be not relevant. Where's Bitcoin? Where's finance? What exchange, Vaka? It's Sam. Alright, I have log on for the record. March. I do this. All right, March. So this is March, right? starting like here. Are you comparing this to something? Oh, this is one day. I gotta go weekly over here. Maybe. So this is present, and this is March 2015. I can't like talk about it because like I don't know what was going on at that time. There's like all sorts of things that could have been happening that I don't know about. Like there's like you have to always look at fractals in the context of what was going on in the broader scope at the time. And like one example is like CFDs. Like I traded the CFD idea, but this was all powered by the CFD thing. And if you forget about that, you'll use it as a fractal and you'll use it incorrectly because the market was not the same, the news was not the same, and the participants were not behaving based off of the same things, right? So I have no idea what people were behaving on back then. I don't know what the general bias was. So I'm not the person to answer it, is what I'm saying, I guess. But it just looks like, I don't know. We're going up from $2.40 to $250. So are we bottoming out? Look at the RSI over here. It's like constant buying and then like getting like washed out. IDK. Basically, long story short, I'm not the person qualified to answer that, so you're probably more qualified than me. Anyway, weekly, we're above the God level. I call this the God level. I'll make it yellow. Above the God level. I say it because it's provided giga support here for 3 weeks, and it provided giga resistance for all of 2022, and we broke it on impulse, which is the correct way to break a level. So if we close above it, I think it's pretty good. Otherwise, I don't know, resume some sort of range, possibly between 40 and 47 possibly, if that level breaks. I don't think it's giga bearish. It depends on how fast it's moving down. But you have to get into the idea that we broke down almost 9% and then bounced, which is really kind of bullish actually. A 9% move is on the tipping point of fucking destroying Bitcoin. Usually when you start from a top to about 10% down, that's where leverage starts unraveling and margin starts unraveling for people. And it either has to bounce or it unravels further down to a 20-30% move. And it's pretty typical that you don't see a 10% down stop at just 10%. So that was a good bounce. It made sense. It was within some of these wicks. Bounce near the monthly. Let's go to the daily next. So next is look at daily. I mean, I'm interested in buying this level, I think. I think it's almost close enough to just buy now, in my opinion, but I don't really feel like taking middle range trades anymore. I've been fucking myself on bad entries over the last few months, and I don't really feel like being impatient anymore. I'm just gonna start being very patient. I've been taking very few trades. I don't have the mental capacity because of Tealstreet and life to be trading all the time anymore. So if I do trade, I gotta just kick up the leverage and take really good entries. And that's the what I also like. I am very blessed in the sense of my job is Tealstreet, and trading is part of my job. We want to do a prop firm and everything. And Sam's okay with trading. Lat's okay with trading. We all trade, but it does get in the way. And I say this to anybody who has a day job and wants to eventually not have a day job and wants to trade for a living. And it's that if you can't watch the price action all day, and you can't, and I take this, this advice came from me because I was also trading with basically 3 jobs at once and trading at one point early last year, because I had a business of my own. I had a day job. I like unraveled my own business, and I was starting to ramp up and working on Tealstreet. So if I was, any trading I was doing, I was fucking myself because I couldn't watch price action. So you need to look for fucking phenomenal entries on weekly or daily and take those trades and just wait 3 or 4 days, because you're going to unravel your account if you can't watch price action all day, every day. Yeah, you no fab, just set like an alert and run to the bathroom. Like put up, like honestly, this is I think the best strategy, and the only strategy that works if you have a day job and it's hard for you to trade, is you determine a big level, a weekly level or a daily level you want to buy or sell, and you set your orders there, and you have a defined amount of risk, and you put an alarm, it executes, and you can manage it for an hour or two, decide if you want it or not, and then if not, move on to another trade that's like range edge, big levels. Like look for 5R, you know, stink bids, 10R, even type trades. It's, or else you're gonna lose your mind, because it's the only way I was ever very successful trading was when I was focused on the price action all day, and I can't do that right now. Most people really don't have the privilege of doing that either. So you have to really, you know, there's weekly price action, there's daily price action, there's hourly price action. You can't trade hourly price action if you only have a weekly price action amount of attention, as in you only have a certain amount of hours in a week, not every hour of the day. All right, so let's look at the daily. This was a really big grind up. I wonder what percent that was. That was almost a 30% grind up, with about an 8% grind down, with a pretty clean bounce on the daily on Thursday. Thursday or Friday? What was the first? Friday. Pretty good bounce there. We're below the weekly. Why it's red on the weekly. You want to actually paint dots on my chart. I mean, this is pretty sick, right? Again, like the God level is here. We are above where we were trading at the beginning of last year. We're above where it bounced multiple times. Big bounces. We're above where it was resistance for 3 months straight. 3 months of resistance. That's, I mean, buying from here to like the running of this 44K wick is like, looks pretty good in my books. Like a 44, I would go big on like a 44.5 entry long, like really big. That's just me. Like you could just, as well, let me show you something. Just like drag, just to put this at the bottom so we don't see anything below. Just like look at this, cut off. I mean, I'm not trying to get people bullish, do your own TA and shit, but just cutting this off, it's like its own world above this line. I was like reacting to it all over the place. There's just like between the line and down are just these impulse moves outward. I wouldn't be surprised if an average price of Bitcoin was around this area for the last little while. Yeah, look at that shit. Drag this for this, quote unquote. Look at where all the volume is happening. It's all happening right here. All within this God line. If you go back, it's probably a little higher up, but look at that shit. All right. How did my thing end up here? I just kind of want to go to a normal liquid market. Why did this default up here now? This is Binance Spot. So obviously, okay, there's a lot of buying in this area for the whole time, but what about here? Yeah, look at that on Binance Spot. From the bottom of July of last year to now. Majority of trading is happening in this area. It looks like it's kind of doing a thing, going above, broke below, going back above. I don't know. Let's look at open interest. Coinalyze likes to log you out after 3 days. Sorry if I sound a little tired. I haven't been sleeping lately. Like droning off. All right, what do we got? Prices in the middle. We're on the daily for open interest. This is price. The bottom is stable coin margined and the top is coin margined. So going from the top down, shorts are not shorts closing off, but stable coin is closing off. But it's rising today. Coin is rising today. People are opening positions, but they've been closing since the end of March. I mean, this is pretty like normal. Not anything out of control. You can see like the open interest has been crabbing. Nothing is overextended. There's quite a bit of overextension on this stablecoin candle, but it closed off and it's down below those levels. Nothing really worth reading. Liquidations. I mean, there hasn't been really any liquidation events. Same thing. Nothing really happening in the last few days or so. Okay, SPX correlation on the daily. All right, so the top here, this bottom middle chart-ish is SPX, and this bottom chart is Bitcoin, and the top is BTCD, but you don't have to worry about that. So we're looking for the SPX correlation. It's been correlated generally for the past however long. So we got SPX doing this, And Bitcoin's doing the same thing. Still fairly correlated. 4 hour. Go to the TA chart. Four-hour breaking down a little bit. We're heading towards the God candle or the God line again. Be potential to get a really nice bounce right here. I probably will go for a stab at this. This beautiful intersection. Let's see, and I don't usually get too much else out of the 4 hour. I take most of my trades. I try to. Okay, most of my successful trades I say are taken off of daily and weekly levels. I watch intra-hour price action to determine when to close more than open. Intraday price action in order to close more than open. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess. Go to the hourly then. So next step is hourly, open interest, liquidations, and the SPX correlation on the hour. But SPX isn't trading right now, so we'll just ignore it. Same thing, chilling between this level and weekly. RSI's fat in the middle. Open interest on the hour. Okay, you can ignore the bottom stuff. I could explain it if you want, but the top is CoinM, then this one is stablecoin, so price, CoinM, stablecoin. And I hide the FTX and the non-FTX ones. Again, nothing really to note. Not a lot of fuel buildup. We're not really generally high on open interest at all. I would expect less impulsive moves because of this. But as we know, open interest washes. So open interest from down over here is very likely it can close down near the bottom. So people open positions here, generate open interest, and they closed it up here, but somebody else opened it. So that's a wash, right? The open interest doesn't change based on that. So it is possible that positions wash out from one area of the price history to another area of the price history. But you can't make that assumption because it's not really a great way to make that assumption of who's closing and who's opening positions from when and to when, basically from when to now. But that's why you need to just look for major outliers. So look for open interest rising heavily in general. Like here's an example, like that's something you can trade off of. This assumption that open interest is washing now here is something you cannot really trade off of. So I also I'm basically getting known on my bias from open interest and stuff right now. SPX correlation, nothing really to look at there. I added a new thing. I like to look at the volume shifts on Binance Spot. What's a volume shift? Well, I don't know. I basically made it up one day and I started using it ever since. But I look for things because Binance Spot's the most liquid market. It's the most liquid spot market. It has the most amount of manipulation. It has the biggest effect on mark price. So the moving price and those who want to move price, they're doing it a lot on Binance Spot. And I go and I look at the 5-minute chart and I look for intent, where their intent as in very obvious large buys or large sells in probably like using some sort of system to monitor an illiquid point in the order book and taking advantage of it to push their general bias of up or down. So I look for these. I call them volume bursts. And I have this going all day, but I've decided I want to start zooming out and looking at it. So you can see very intentful buying and some intentful selling. But I'm gonna ignore this one because it's out of this range. I want to start at this point, line in the sand. So you can read those B's and S's. I'm just looking for these swings in volume. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 B's and 1, 2 S's. Seems there's more impactful buying than selling on the spot market. I don't know. I use that sometimes to determine who's trying to influence the market with large size and what their idea is. So like if they want to push price up, they have to look for liquid points in the spot books and use their money, aka their power, to push the price in a certain direction. So you can see that on the 5-minute chart pretty clearly when people are basically quote unquote going for it, and they have a lot of money. So that's what I call intent, and I think there is bullish intent. Doesn't mean they could be wrong. It doesn't mean there's a news event. Doesn't mean firms are wrong. Doesn't mean whales are wrong. Doesn't mean it's fake. Doesn't mean it's psyops. But it looks like there's the whales and stuff are have bullish intent to push the price up for whatever their end goal is. And if you don't think there's other people in charge basically with the market and the price, you should start considering otherwise, because just like most things when it comes to money, most of the people at the bottom of the rungs are not the ones moving it and aren't the ones in charge. Okay, so that's it. Again, I think I've got a screenshot of my daily ritual now. I'll just paste it again in chat. And yeah, the last thing I do is I always make sure I have a bunch of tablets and all this shit and all these charts and all this fucking anxiety creators around me. So I always make sure all my charts are running. Actually, I'm noticing right now one of my charts is frozen. And I don't want to have one of my charts running and I make a mistake by reading from it and it's wrong because it's frozen, or for in this case, CoinWise logged me out. It's all zoomed out to the points I'm used to looking at. Funding. Yeah, charts are good. And that's another thing too. If you have a chart open all day, you should keep the chart within the same time frame view, right? And why is this? Well, your brain responds to stimuli, and winning money is a reward to your brain, and you get some dopamine when you do a good trade. So your brain wants to either optimize survival and optimize rewards, reduce anxiety, increase happiness. So it doesn't, like, it's weird, your brain, your consciousness is really kind of fucked up, but in the background it's using patterns and things to help you optimize your goals. It doesn't really know what it is, but it knows that this input of this chart and some sort of result of it is is a reward to this person. It's a reward to the body in which this consciousness is embedded in, right? So if you keep charts open, your brain will start creating patterns and subconsciously helping you get more rewards. So it gets more dopamine, and it does that to you through like your gut, right? It does it through your instinct, your intuition. It's all the same thing. The muse, intuition, divine intervention, your gut, your instinct, that's all the same thing. I love to tell a story. I'll give you an example of this. So that's why you want to look at your charts in the same time frame, because your brain is categorizing patterns and you don't know it. And when you're looking at it, you want to have these unconscious triggers to the same view, same time frame, same zoom out, even the same, like the chart zoomed out to the same amount of candles even on the screen. So it helps you basically make correct assumptions subconsciously for you. Okay, so there's this woman, right? This is in the book Atomic Habits. She is a paramedic, and she goes to a family reunion party, and she sees her father-in-law, and she goes, "Oh, hey, holy shit, you look like hell." And he goes, "Well, thanks, you don't look so good yourself." And she goes, "No, really, like, you look like shit, like, you need to go to the hospital, like, right now." And he goes to the hospital, and he was 2 hours away from a fatal blood clot that would have killed him. So she was able to, in his face, without knowing it, recognize the patterns of somebody who was having a blood or heart condition before it happened. And she did that because she has seen so many people in the ambulances over the years with the same type of symptoms, but wasn't able to determine why she saw them. But her brain instinctually said, this is somebody having a heart condition. Yeah, I've told this story before. I love this story. But that's why it's so important, I think, to have charts visible all day if you're trading all day, because your brain is trying to solve problems for you. All right, that's it. Any questions? You want to get that good dopamine? Near. I was not really looking at near. I think you should not worry about 20k lows until Bitcoin does a 10k drop. And it's also a time frame thing, Juice. How fast it drops. So the faster it is, the less time people have to react and put orders on the book, and that's what is called an illiquidity event. But if it's not fast, the slower it is, the less likely it is, until it gets extended from a top down to about 25%, 25% down from a top. That's where it would be more likely for 28k. But I would not even consider it until we were like 25% down from like a top, basically. Because when you get to that point, that gets to a very, very extended long squeeze where you're squeezing 5x leverage, 6x, 7x, 4x leverage, and it starts to cascade at that point. So a liquidity event with a leverage event combined, yeah, the faster it is, the more likely it is. But if it's slow, I wouldn't even consider it until we were down 25% from the top, from this recent top is what I'm saying. So that would be from 46.7. So if we were down, I wouldn't consider it until I'm on the 5-minute chart. I mean, I would not keep that in my bias. I would get bearish bias after 10%. So around 44k break, I would start feeling somewhat bearish. I'm breaking down to this lower range. And then, so from 44k to 35K, I'd be generally bearish, looking for a bounce around 35K, hopefully, or the bottom of the range. And if it starts breaking beyond this 25% mark, that's where I would consider there be some sort of liquidity event, depending on how fast it could go. For me, there's always multiple steps to a washout, and you can, and there's a point where you need to really pay attention during a washout, especially if you're longing, quote unquote, the dip that keeps on dipping. And for me, there's always, I look for 3 points for a bounce only. I guess 2 points, but let's go to the price range. So I look for a bounce around 10%. Because that's where everyone up to basically 9x even leverage because the maintenance margin gets hit. And then the next point, about 25%, just because historically, if you look back, drawdowns around that area start to really fucking fall off. So you see here was a 25% down from a top. $25 down, bounce, and then giganuke. So how much further did that go down? We'll just use this one as an example of a 25% fail. So that went down to 38% after a 25% down failure to bounce. So what's 38% over here? So 38% is 30K. So yeah, failure to bounce here, which I would bid. I have stink bids. If you look at my alarms, I have alarms right down that area. It's a good R trade to buy these 3 points, but I don't like, basically it's hard to put it because it really depends, but like I will buy almost anywhere within here. But once it starts breaking past 10%, I will start being very careful about where I'm buying and start having a bearish bias, because that's where things start squeezing heavily downward. So it's like this point breaks, I need to be very careful about buying until it's extended pretty far down. Then when it gets to here, you need to sit back and wait for the bounce, because you will see it. You will see the bounce. It will be fast. It will be furious. And you can 100x here sometimes with almost complete like 7% invalidation because of how badly some of these futures markets get fucked up. So there's a potential that you can get an entry like down here at 28K and spot only goes to 30K, right? So what's that mean? It means your liquidation is based off of mark price, and your liquidation is like 27.7, but spot price was still at 30K. That means your invalidation to get liquidated is like 7, 8, 9%. And it only happens because, you know, leverage unravels that way. It unravels much heavier than spot unravels because there's so much more fuel to push price. So that's like those points where, like, if you're looking for 25% down to start breaking and you want to buy, you need to really kind of fucking grab your nuts and decide if do you want to make all the money for 1 year, 2 years, all in one trade. You know, if you want to be really brave, wait for a 25% break and try to pay very close attention to the intra-hour price action, because it's going to be like these wicks, these huge fucking things, and that's enough for you to make all the profit you need for a year, like off of that one move. If you're paying very close attention, you're paying close attention to what mark price is doing, and you're realizing that your invalidation could be almost infinite or impossible to get liquidated, quote unquote. Impossible sometimes. So if spot bounces here, let's just say green is the spot bounce and futures goes to here, so you get an entry at purple and your liquidation is gold. Spot has to go to your liquidation for you to get liquidated. It's pretty fucking insane. And I think everyone needs to know about this mechanism of the market, because you can get basically a free trade if you really pay attention during these huge liquidity events. So watch. Price spikes on, this is the spot. That's what spot does. This is what futures does. But futures could do this. In this situation, futures could go to 20K and you can't get liquidated. Why? Because liquidation is based off of mark price, which is based off of the price on the spot market. So your liquidation is based off of what this is doing, the spot markets, but your entries are based off of the last trade price in the futures market that you are trading on. So this can, like, you could enter at 27K and futures could go to zero, but you won't liquidate unless spot markets go down to this, your liquidation price. So mark price goes down to your liquidation price. So like whoever was asking Juice about the 28K situation, yeah, that's like one of those points where it's like you need to always be considering that and almost running the scenario in your head to what I want to do on that situation, because that is one of the situations where you can make all the money you need for a year off of one trade. Like if you're gonna, when you look back over your trade history, there's going to be less than 10 trades that make your whole net worth. Usually you will get some fucking huge trades. I don't even think generally over the course of my career I have a very good win rate. I think my win rate's probably about 40% or something of that like. But I'm good at managing asymmetric risk and size. So about 4 trades probably made 4 trades, I think made 4 swing trades. Made probably 85% of my whole net worth. So it was just about betting. This is a Sam Trabucco Twitter tweet, but it's about betting bigger when betting is better. And this is a point where betting is better and you need to bet bigger. If not, bet everything you have and just go for it on a huge liquidity event. But you have to pay attention. Look back and see what happened last time and look for the signs of a bounce, and you do it. People do it all the time. Does everybody get that about how your liquidation price is based off of mark price, which is based off of the spot markets? And the spot markets are a lot more liquid than the futures market where you are trading at. So your entry is based off of the last price, and your liquidation, the last price on the futures market, and your liquidation is based off of the mark price of, which is basically an average of the spot exchanges. So you enter based on the price on the market you're trading, say Bybit futures, but you liquidate based off of the spot price. And because leverage unravels price and unravels positions faster and wicks harder, you can get a much deeper entry with almost an impossible, almost like if spot bounces, it's impossible for you to get liquidated. It would have to go 7% more. 7% for a 100x liquidation. I know it's fucking crazy, but it's one of those things where it's like if you're ready with that in mind and that situation comes, you can make all your money for 1 year. All of it. It's just about nutting up and being ready to be like, I'm 100xing this. Yeah, leverage unravels. It's like domino effect. Like 100x leverage or liquidates after about 0.5%. 50x leverage liquidates after about 1.5-ish% down. Fuck, there's such a good GIF. my god, I got like, how did I get in this shitty Telegram group? Hold on. I thought I did this thing where I couldn't get invited. I saw this video on Reddit about like it showed like leverage cascades. Yeah, I've changed. Yeah, Zal, I've changed everything based off of how I've reacted off of these events. That's why I've got these 10%, 25%, and then further 38% is not a hard one, but 10, 25% for me are like, if we're down more than 10%, I need to stop thinking about longing for a while. I need to look for shorts or look for a big entry on a bounce, which would be pretty far down usually at that case. Does anybody ever see this video where it's like this? It's from a Bollywood movie, but it shows like this statue falling down, and all the people are like trying to grab the statue and like prop it up from falling, and it shows like all the leverage amounts for each person. So it's like the 100x people fall because the statue's falling, and then like the 50x people start falling and the 20x start falling. Yeah, dude. What is it? I've been looking for it for like half a year now. I keep trying to find it. Yeah, the dude grabs a rope. If somebody could find that for me, I'd be so eternally grateful. Oh my god, this is it. So somebody, okay, Zykaz. You were asking about leverage unraveling. This is essentially what happens when leverage unravels. Oh my god. I'm so glad you found that. Oh my god, thanks, Evolve. Dude, I've been looking for that for like half a year. Seriously, I had no idea what to search. I need to we need to save this as a command. What should I call it? I'm not gonna remember that. Let's say statue. Yeah, I think I was being too big brain involved with what I was searching. It was not very good. That's so hilarious. Sailor's buying it, saving all the fucking degen leverage traders. Alright, anything else anybody wants to talk about? An ape. I don't have any thoughts on ape at the moment, but I can try to produce some. Doge is attacking a pretty... Oh, I don't know if this was an important level. It seems somewhat important. A big weekly level. I don't know if Doge could break out, possibly, but the whole market's kind of looking good on the weekly side. Oh yeah, ape. I don't think I have any TA on ape, and I'm not the best at trading illiquid new coins. Orange. Ape. I don't know. I mean, it's probably going to break down in my opinion, just because it's tested this support so many times on a high time frame. The more touches to a level, the weaker it gets, and it's touched this level quite a lot of times. I mean, it could bounce if the market's macro bullish, but it doesn't seem to be really... Oh, this is weekly. This is daily. Let me just look at it compared to Bitcoin. Or I can just look off to the side at Bitcoin. I mean, it's kind of following Bitcoin. Maybe. Eggs, there'll be a VOD after I talk. I already talked about that a bit. Basically, it's like what you need to look for to make such a grandiose assumption. And right now, I'm not within the range of considering that. But I laid out the possibilities that generally lead to that sort of like leverage cascade event type thing. Like, it's so hard to make that type of bet, and it's like maybe on options, if like the price is good, you can make that kind of bet if you really think so. But like, unless you're trading options, there's a lot of things I want personally to be in place before I start considering something like that. I haven't traded options in a while. I kind of miss some options. Okay. CLI release. So there's like a huge backlog, and I think basically what our main goal right now is to kind of push the leverage tools to all the other exchanges. That's what I'm working on specifically right now. We have most of the framework in place for scaled orders. That should be coming very soon. We have a lot of businessy things happening right now, which is taking up a lot of our time. It's also tax time, just taking up a lot of my time and everyone's time. So I think it's going to be more automated order types, and then leverage stuff more broadly, more leverage tools, and then something like the CLI, which seems like what our backlog is looking like. We're also getting some new people in, so we're kind of like getting some new employees up to speed. So that's also taking a bit of time. We're growing kind of fast, all things considered. In the last month since coming out of beta, things have been moving very quickly. To put it in perspective, from beta to now, which beta was only like a month ago, we've like doubled the user base in like a month. It's pretty crazy. Like, all things considered, if you ever been on a software project or like a software as a service type project, it's not usually heard of to double your user base in like a month. Will you release a token? Yes, we will release a token. Any more questions? Scaled orders? Zycos, do I know anything about scaled orders or scale a coin? Grayscale? Scale. Oh, I kind of remember this. Oh, interesting. This is the daily chart. It is up 200% in like 23 days. Or 15% in a month. It looks like it broke through all the possible resistances from here to. Interesting. I'm kind of to this guy. Like, look at that. That's a pretty sick point buy. I could buy this. These levels are clean as fuck. Why is it so smooth? Like, it's just being constantly T-wapped and V-wapped. Oh wow, look at the volume as well. What is this shit? Is there news about it? I don't know. That's what I think about CLI or scale. CLI could do something between here. Looks like a nice time to buy. $5-minute. Yeah, we were talking a bit about volume bursting. There's quite a lot of selling. Seemed to get absorbed fairly well. Because you could see, let's just take a similar point. Like, so this down is about the same as this down. So, you can see how little volume it took to push it down this much, then how much volume it took to push it down this much. So I would imagine the funding is kind of like fucked up on this coin. Is the funding. SKL. Yeah, it's it's super positive. 0.035 Bybit, 0.04 on FTX. Pretty positive. It's not, I mean, for shit, as far as shitcoins go, it's somewhat normal, but it's high. So it's being aggressively longed. Maybe I wouldn't buy a bounce. I don't know. This might be a no trade for me. But you do you. If I were to do it, I would go for a bounce that wasn't very huge size. Go for like an entry around price or below, and then put the stop below this little wick. That's probably a decent percent. Oh, it's only 1% down. Okay, any more questions? I'm gonna keep an eye on this guy. All right, I'm gonna get off. Have fun. Good luck.